Employment and Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi engaged social partners on the last day of the Metal Industries Collective Bargaining Summit. He dedicated most of his keynote speech on issues raised around the Employment Equity Act and the significance of the amendment.
Guidelines have been drawn up and provisional targets agreed. And this was after consultation with the stakeholders. It was never unilateral, even on the guidelines. And the purpose is to support equitable representation of suitable qualified people at all levels from the designated groups. And the amended Act also promulgates Section 53 of the EEA, which already existed for the issuing of the EE compliance certificate as a prerequisite for access to state contracts and doing business with any organ of the state. The state has the right to expect that businesses we do business with comply with the law.
He says proposals have been drafted and the process now open for consultation, urging those with concerns to use the process to make commentary instead of threatening legal action.
Amazing how those who benefited most from the racial privilege under apartheid are first to accuse others of racial quotas, reverse racism. And some parties have not read these CE annual reports. The empirical evidence is clear that the dead hand of racial stratification still lies heavy across the South African working place at the present rate. If nothing is done at the present rate, this will be entrenched for many decades to come. That is what some are defending. That is the challenge the EEA seeks to address.
The summit put processes of collective bargaining under the spotlight, with unions saying in its current form, it sparks tensions between social partners, with workers often losing out.
When they produce wealth out of their sweat and toil, that wealth must be redistributed to them both by paying them a living wage and to deliver a social wage in surrounding communities where these companies exist. We must not compromise in smashing and burying racism in all its stereotypes and backwardness whenever it surfaces its ugly head, as it is a crime against humanity.
The Steel and Engineering Industrial Federation of Southern Africa played host to delegates for 2 days and says it was necessary for social partners to converge, as the industry cannot afford a repeat of the 2021 leg of wage talks that dragged for 3 weeks, culminating in a shutdown and the industry losing around 700 million rand per day.
It was important then to reflect and then place collective bargaining within that context to say, economically, where are we? How then do we perform given the current state of the affairs in the country? And as a sector, we need to make hard choices in terms of the economic setup, so that when we then engage a government on various projects, we're then informed by the current state of the affairs. And secondly, even to the extent that when we had the panel discussions yesterday, it was to reaffirm the current economic situation that we are faced with.
The delegates described the summit as a success, saying this will help with the promotion of industrial peace and an honest approach to collective bargaining.
I think it was a fantastic mix of hearing from business and hearing from the unions, and really grappling with important issues around how do you bring parties together in terms of really understanding each other and really dealing with issues that the industry is facing.
Minister Thulas Nxesi calling on role players in the labour space to work with government going forward in the development of the country's collective bargaining process and the Labour Relations Act. This, of course, being sensitive to an ailing economy and the promotion of industrial peace. The minister also pouring cold water on threats of legal action and concerns raised around the amended Employment Equity Act, saying this process remains integral in the transformation of the country's labour space. SABC News in Kempton Park.